Welcome to the Daikaiju Network commentary. I had a little bit of a brain fart there. On 1970s Gamera versus Jiger, the sixth film, and not just the entire Gamera franchise, but also the Showa Gamera series. I think before we get going, we talk about briefly just some of our history with this film, and then we'll get right into it. So, for me personally, this has always been one of my personal favorites. I remember years ago when we first started watching these films on VHS, this was really my favorite out of all the original Gamera films that I saw during that time. And as time has gone on, it's sort of dropped just a little bit. I used to have a deal where I really disliked the little girl in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And as time has gone on, my thoughts on her have softened as well. So I don't find her as annoying. I don't know. Maybe it was just having something to do with me being a teenager at the time or whatever. But um, as time has gone on, this has sort of dropped just a little bit in my favorites. Even in the Showa Gamera series, I would argue, if I were to just rank the Showa Gamera films myself, films like Gamera versus Gauss, Virus maybe as well, and maybe Barugon would rank above this one. Certainly, Gamera versus Gauss would be above this one for sure, but I still think it's an underrated, not just Gamera film, but Kaiju film as well. I do think that there is more to like here than there is to dislike. Yeah, sure, typical Gamera, film where you have some annoying kids and the like, but I still think this is a fairly strong entry in the entire Gamera franchise. So I'm really happy that we're finally covering this. I think it's long overdue, and it's hopefully during this commentary we can sort of do it some justice.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I can't quite remember the first time I've seen Gamera versus Jiger. It's probably been maybe close to maybe more than a decade or something like that. And I can kind of like what you said with the little girl in this movie. It was quite annoying, and I didn't particularly. But I would definitely say that she was quite annoying at the time. But since it's been a long time, I last watched this movie. I can't remember the last time I've seen it, so I might have maybe kind of change my opinion on it. We'll kind of have to see when we watch this film with her, but I did really enjoy kind of the campiness of the film and the storyline to it. It's pretty interesting in the way that they did Jiger in this movie here. So yeah, I think I might have watched this maybe several times throughout maybe a decade or more on this. So I think as far as kind of my overall feelings of this, I think we've reviewed the film of this probably a few or so years ago when we were going through the whole Gamera franchise.
I want to say that was 2013 when we started going through the Gamera franchise.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure how I rated the film this one, because I think we used to do the ratings 1 through 10 on that. So I think as of right now, I'm kind of going in this 50-50 as of right now. But so yeah, that's kind of my whole take on it. And then just kind of before we dive in, sorry to be for us being so late. We were trying to we were trying to try out a new broadcasting software, which is the the open broadcast software, or otherwise known as OBS, which I think a lot of people are much familiar with when they're doing broadcasts, for gaming or live podcasts and everything. And we did a test on through it. I think a week ago. I was wanting to add in a plugin using for OBS that will capture Skype along with the audio, and it seemed to work. But then every freaking time on the day when we're trying to do something, something wasn't really working at all, and like I was adding Kent's live video feed through the NDI plugin in OBS, but for some strange reason, his audio track in the mixer was not showing up at all, and I was just really not having it at all. I was trying to figure it out for the longest time. I think probably I would say over a half hour at least. So so our apologies in advance for being so late. We were just trying to figure out the audio part on Kent's end through the NDI plugin in OBS, but as always, on the day when we're trying to do a live streaming of the show, something just was not working at all. So yeah, that's basically it.
All right, so I think both of us are using the Shout Factory versions of the film.
Yeah, I've actually got the Mill Creek Entertainment the Blu-ray version of the film.
Okay. I've got the DVD because I'm gonna do the English dubs on this end. Um, I used to own the Alpha Video version of this film years ago, where it was double billed with Monster from a Prehistoric Planet. So if you're using that DVD, I am not sure how much different that movie is from the Shot Factory one, if at all. So if you're using that one, if something's different, sorry, it's just how it is. So on my end, I've got the DVD version. I have the English dub up, and right now my icon is next to the play movie. So I'm going to count down. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, I'm going to hit the select button on the play movie, and then we're going to get started.
And then before we go in, just make sure your volume is down all the way. So just, since we're on YouTube, just to make sure.
I'll try. Well, find out. I'm going to try to hear the movie here. So
yeah, I know that's going to be a difficult thing.
Okay, so I'm going to start the countdown right now. 3, 2, 1, go.
And then I know on here, and then on here we can turn our cameras off so they wouldn't have to see our ugly faces while we're watching this.
Oh, nice. So how's the volume on my end?
I can hear just a little bit of it.
Is it bothering anything?
Maybe turn it down maybe one notch.
How about that?
I think that's good. How about on my end?
I can't hear anything on your end.
Okay, good. Let's see, let me turn up to volume 5. How about right now?
No, I can't hear anything.
Okay.
The good old Gamera theme song.
Oh, yeah. At least on my version of the movie here, it's got, I'm not sure if it is on your end, that it's showing like the original Japanese introduction here with kind of the screenshots from what it looks like here, Gamera versus Gauss, and with the original Japanese text overlaying it, showing who's apparently directing or who's worked on Gamera versus Jiger here.
Hmm.
But I'm not sure if it's the same on your end.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. I think the only difference between my version and the Blu-ray version, because I own the Blu-ray version as well, I think the only real difference is that the Blu-ray didn't have, for whatever strange reason, the English dubs,
Mm-hmm.
which I find to be weird.
All right. So now in the opening scene here of the ocean, showing lots and lots of boats, and one of the main characters of the film here, I forget the name. I don't even have.
It's not important. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, right?
I think it's Kenny. I think every film is Kenny, I believe, or uh, Keisuke. I think I saw in the subtitle here. Yeah, so on the Blu-ray version here, from what it looks like here, I've got the oh no, it's Hiroshi. That's the main character, the main boy character. But from as I was saying that, my thing here looks like I've got the sub version going on right now on the Blu-ray version. And apparently his Hiroshi's dad here, uh, one of the workers for kind of one of the shop workers here, building a kind of these little miniature submarines for Expo Land.
So
Just
during this time, in Japan, the World Expo was getting ready to go on. That's why um, I can't remember if it's either this movie or if it was in Zigra. There was like a brief moment or two where the one of the main characters takes the boy character and kind of shows him around a little bit.
mm-hmm. It's kind of something a little bit similar, not similar, but kind of like Gamera versus Ziegler, where they were kind of at this area which I think it was some kind of expo where it was kind of the main setting.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about Gamera versus Jiger um, was that it was not released theatrically in the United States. It was released, though, by AIP, American International Pictures, for television. Uh, Pretty much by this point, obviously, the early part of the 70s, I couldn't find anything as far as any information. It seems like when it comes to a lot of the Gamera films, or should I at least say the Showa era films, there's not a ton of information out there in English right now. Hopefully that will change. But I would assume that when this came over to the States and was first aired on TV, I would assume it would be 1971, but I can't confirm that. Yeah, so this is the deal here where they're talking about the World Expo, Japan getting ready for that. I don't even know, is the World Expo still even around?
I think it is still, but probably not quite as
Oh, World
big as it
Expo
was
2018. Let
back
me
in the
take a
day.
look here. List of World's Fairs. How often is World Expo?
I think from what I've read on it, I think there was
Every
one time.
5 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I thought it'd probably be somewhere around once every 4 years or something like that. But yeah, it's like I think it used to have been big, uh, like many years ago. But then for some strange reason, I think it's just like it just kind of died down in a way. You don't really hear it as much as you used to,
Yeah.
like many years ago. So yeah, basically you're just this guy with Hiroshi here, or Kenny in the English dub, or whatever you've got. Uh, like this guy here, it's just kind of talking about the whole expo, just kind of going around it while the whole thing's kind of in the middle of construction. And I can hear a little bit of the, the audio in the background there. Just FYI on your end. Oh yeah, this
That guy
guy.
looks like Steve Harvey.
It kind of does look like I'm a younger version with some hair.
$50 says that's not an actual language he's speaking.
It may be, but just not quite sure where if it is. And I like how in uh, the subtitle here that I have here, it said kind of in between the brackets, it said African language. It didn't say what specifically.
Maybe there needs to be quotes around it.
Yeah. And then it says it again, African language. Say it specifically.
Oh, this is that movie where we have a famous scene later. I'll point it out when we get close to it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
The
now
African leader doesn't want to be bothered.
yeah, apparently they're just kind of going through images of certain artifacts or ancient structures and everything. And then I think they'll be coming up with the stone that has Jiger kind of in a sleep state right now. It's kind of, was it called the Devil's Whistle, I believe, which is kind of linked, where the story is kind of linked in this whole thing. So yeah, this is kind of where uh, the guy just kind of goes on a huge fit once he sees the Devil's Whistle, because I think he's kind of from this island or something like that, and there's like lures, like if you remove the Devil's Whistle, like a terrifying monster, which is Jiger, comes to wreak havoc on the planet. And so now we're at the island, which
Now here you get, the foreground is a matte painting.
yeah, you can definitely tell here. But as I was saying, we're at this island, which, according to what the subtitle says, is a Wester Island.
Yeah, they're watching the movie, dude. They know what's going on.
Just making sure.
Helicopters with rockets.
I don't think that would actually work.
By the way, in case anyone's wondering why we have our camera shut off, first of all, we thought it would be better just to look at our pictures instead of looking at the sides of our faces as we watch the film. But on top of that, though, too, we can't show you any of the movie because of obvious copyright issues.
Yeah, and then we've also kind of lowered the audio from our TVs here just to make sure, too. Although you might hear just a little bit of it, but it shouldn't be too bad.
I think one of the reasons why I hated this girl so much when I was younger was because I think I always thought she may have had a deal against Gamera, which she actually does at one point, but I think that was part of my problem with her.
I think that, and then too, I think at times where she kind of knew like too much. Like she knew more than what the adults knew. Like,
Well,
and
that's
then it's like she
typical of
kind
all
of
Gamera
knew.
films.
It's like she kind of knew in advance. And I think it was kind of like that with some of the other Gamera films. I can't remember which one specifically.
Really, all of them except for maybe the first two, where the kids know more than the
True.
adults.
True. Yeah.
In a way, Nightmare on Elm Street harnessed the spirit of the Gamera movies because all the kids are going around telling the adults, Freddy Krueger's here, Freddy Krueger's here, and the adults are like, pfft. Meanwhile, all the kids are dying in Springwood.
I like how Gamera just like the way he lands just kind of slams the ground.
One too many drinks. It's amazing because I think this we later find out this devil's whistle is lined with some sort of poison, I think. It's just weird how that works. But then again, though, too, this is a world where giant monsters exist. So,
Well, I
pick
think
which one is weirder.
well, I think with when you said poison, I think it didn't they say it was kind of like the frequency of the sound that was
There
kind
is a
of poison?
frequency with it, but I thought, too, they said it was lined with a poison, too, maybe. I could be wrong.
Well, I
We
know with
corporatists want our statue.
I think with one of Jiger's uh, needle weapons that he shoots out from his horns. There, I know that is poison.
No, those aren't poison. The one at the end of the tail inserts eggs, but the regular ones that shoots around its nostrils are just regular old spikes.
Okay. I can't. Yeah, I can't remember which one it was that was kind of poison. And then we got the volcano here starting to erupt once after they've unlodged the Devil's Whistle from its location here.
I have to say, though, despite the fact definitely it's obvious that movies, not just Gamera movies in general, but Kaiju films at this point, their budgets were dropped significantly. The model work done for this particular area of the island is still great, even though there's nothing really fancy to it because it's a bunch of jagged rocks and a volcano. It
Mm-hmm.
still shows a lot of texture and personality to it with all the ridges and the peaks and what have you to it. It's still a really fine, unique take because this soundstage, I mean, you have actors in these kaiju suits and you see how big the surrounding sets are. I mean, it's still a
Mm-hmm.
good size.
Yeah, it's like kind of like what you said with the budget. This was made in 1970, kind of right around where a lot of people were not really going to theaters and then watching stuff on the television there. And I think this was probably the third to last or fourth to last Gamera film in the Showa series.
This is the third to last.
Yeah.
Because after this, you had Zigra, and then you had um, uh, the super monster. That which shall not be named or acknowledged.
Even though we've
It
done
was
a
good.
review on it.
Well, it's ripping off the band-aid. You get it done and out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
This guy here who plays the dad, he's in several of these Showa Gamera films. He played the one police officer in the movie before this,
Yeah.
Gamera versus Giron. Um, he also was in Virus. He played that goofy. No, that was Giron. Never mind.
Yeah, it was.
I'm trying to think. There are a couple actors in this Showa Gamera series. One of them, he might be maybe a colonel or something in this movie. I could be wrong, but he played in several of the Showa Gamera films. He played the handicap guy in Barugon.
Mm. Yeah, I guess I can't quite remember him from Baragon. I probably would have to take a look at it again the next time I watch that movie.
Make sure you put a lot of bricks in it and let that girl sink to the bottom. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
God. Yeah, I think this girl is still kind of annoying. Even
She is,
after seeing it for the first time in a long time here.
yeah, I mean, I still the last time I watched this movie, which I think was about a year ago, I was sitting down as I was watching this. I was trying to remember. I'm like, yes, I do remember hating her, and to some degree, yeah, her hatred of Gamera was a small part of it. But I'm like, there was just something else about her that I did not like, and it's starting to come back. Part of it is the dubbing of her. I've gotten to a point anymore where some of these kaiju films, especially those involving little children, if you don't have one of the kids to hate, then it's not a good kaiju flick.
And so now we've got Jiger appearing from a pile of rubble here on Wester Island.
This is really neat because take a look at the back legs of Jiger here. In the Toho Godzilla films, you had the actors who played Baragon and
Anguirus.
Anguirus. They were basically crawling. They sort of tried to make it look like they were walking on back legs, but didn't obviously work out all that well. But here with Barugan, several movies earlier. Um, not really with gear on that one. They actually kind of had doing the Anguirus style
Yeah.
of crawling. But then here with Jiger, you have the back feet actually standing up and walking across the ground.
And speaking of which, did Barugon, wasn't he kind of doing the Anguirus Baragon stance or the Jiger?
I think I'm 100% positive it may just be like the Jiger.
Mm. Yeah, and then according from what I'm seeing on my Blu-ray version here, I saw faintly saw some strain, I think,
Yeah,
right on the nose head of Jagger here, which I'm probably guessing the reason for that is that the head was just probably too heavy for the suit actor for this.
you
Uh,
took the words right out of my mouth because that's what I was going to point out
and
too.
just the way that it's uh, Jagger is walking, and probably where the person is situated within the suit of Jagger here. I'm probably guessing the head was just too heavy. Just the way that this head looks and the way that it's structured. I'm probably guessing it's just way too heavy for the suit actor, and thus they probably had to have at least a strain or two for the head there.
Now, there are a lot of things that are ridiculous about these earlier Gamera films, but I think one of the most ridiculous ones are these rockets behind what would you call them, like the gills or the head crest of Jiger.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, it's like the way that the kind of the jet thing is situated in on Jagger's head. It's like does that jet propel? Like, is that powerful enough actually
No,
for Jagger to fly around?
I'm waiting
And
for a parody where someone has Jiger shooting off the rockets, and instead of propelling Jiger, it just takes off his head.
yeah, and with and the thing too is that Jagger doesn't have really any wings. Like the only related thing that he has is the fins on his back there, and it's like it wouldn't he wouldn't be able to fly with that jet propulsion unless
How
if
did
he has some
Gamera
kind
get
of
in the
wing.
water there? That's a plot hole there because he didn't
Yeah,
go in the water. Something got cut. But you talk about Jiger flying. It's like, but then take a look at Gamera and how he's able to fly. I mean, you can't explain that either.
that too. Yeah, but at least in the Heisei version, I think from the second film and especially the third film, they made it more believable, at least with those. But yeah, as far as like the Showa ones, right up to I would say Gamera Garden of the Universe in the Heisei era, it didn't really make much sense at all. But
Now,
maybe
while
when
we're on the
he's
subject of Jiger, I want to have us talk about kind of our own personal thoughts on Jiger. I really believe Jiger is one of the better Gamera foes. I
Mhm.
really not only like the design. Every time I look at it, I think of a Triceratops type of creature, but this creature is really badass. It has a lot of lethal weapons. Um, on it. I mean, I just think this is one bad mama.
oh yeah, I mean, I think it's probably one of the more powerful foes of Gamera that he's faced so far in the Heisei era. Probably as far as maybe the strongest foe. What would you rank Jiger?
All time or
I probably would say as far as the Showa,
Showa? Let's see.
because I know we've got Gauss,
That's tough because
Zigra.
all of the foes possess some sort of deadly weapon or ability. Um, I would say, let's see, I would say Virus. No, I would say Zigra. It's a tie. I have a tough time figuring out between either Zigra or Virus being the weakest. And let's see from there. Barogon, I may have to put near, if not at the top, for strongest. I would say Jiger's kind of about the middle.
Okay, it's not too terribly bad.
Because I look at Giron, he had those shooting stars, but then just that large knife head and its ability to launch. I mean, my gosh, you get. I mean, it showed the ability to cut through his shell. So
Hmm.
that's a big part of it. It's just the fact that that whole knife head is so friggin' deadly. Um,
And then too, you
but
got
yeah, otherwise I would put
Gauss's
Jiger ahead of it.
laser and everything too.
Yeah, Gauss has the laser, which is very potent. And then Barogon has the ability to freeze, and then that rainbow ray is very deadly too.
Yeah. So yeah, I can maybe see Jiger kind of in the middle. Does kind of make sense.
Zigra has the ability to sort of freeze things, I think, but I don't know. You know
I don't.
what? I'm gonna put Virus just ever so slightly beneath Virus.
I For
I
me,
mean
I
Zigra.
probably
Ugh.
yeah, I was gonna say for me at least, I was probably put Zigra as the weakest, and then Vera's.
Now in the foreground here, second from the left, that guy is going to show up in Gamma versus Zigra as sort of like this. Was
Oh
I
yeah,
think the
one of the fishermen,
dolphin
I think.
manager
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He works at the kind of the aquarium
keyword?
there.
I need my Triscuits. Oh, good, something's happening.
I also kind of like this scene here with Jagger colliding with the boat here, and just the way the model of the ship is. I think as far if we can see if it can show the model ship here, I think it was pretty detailed. But
I
then
don't
the
remember
way
this.
when Jagger goes through it, I think it was kind of done a little bit cheaply. I think it was kind of pre-cut. I think maybe two straight. Yeah, here
Yeah,
we
it's
go.
pre-cut.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of
The
yeah, it was kind of
destruction of the
destroyed.
boats was better done in Hedora a year later.
Yeah, yeah. This one here was just like definitely cut in half. I think it was the frequency of the whistle there, which I think kind of did strange things to people,
I
kind of
thought
like
there
this
was some
guy.
sort of substance on it too. We're gonna have to listen when they start explaining this thing later.
Yeah, let's see if this boat gets cut in half here too.
No, I think I see where it's cut. Oh, nope, I don't.
Nope, actually, it didn't cut through
That
this time.
Oh, nope, yeah, it did fall apart
Oh,
where I
there we
saw
go.
it cut.
Yeah,
There we go. So I was right.
it took a little bit, and then just the way that he floats.
That's an empty suit, obviously.
Yeah. And I also like this one here too, where he just kind of jumps
Now,
just
see,
to try to get the whistle.
now we were talking earlier about smaller budgets, and Daiei's budgets compared to Toho for their Godzilla movies, were a lot less. And by this point, too, TV definitely was taking over. But one of the things I love about this movie too is that unlike even a couple of the earlier Gamera films, look at the model work done here. Look at all the models and the fact that they are doing a pretty decent city destruction scene here.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I really enjoy an awful lot because Gamera and Jiger have 3 fights in this film, at least 3 that I can remember. And one of the fights later will be in this city. And the fact that they were able to build a decent sized set with a fair amount of models and all the explosives, that is, for 1970 kaiju films, that is really nice. Because I even have to say that a lot of your 70s Godzilla films didn't even have this either. Um, Godzilla vs. Hedorah had a small set for one of the scenes, but nothing this size. Godzilla vs. Gigan, they kind of sort of did. I still don't know if it would be as expansive as this. It would be close. Megalon certainly did not. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla really didn't. The oil refinery was about as close as they got, and even then it wasn't that large. And Terra Mechagodzilla, they kind of sort of did, but again, I still don't think it was as large as this.
Uh, maybe, but as far as some of the appearance of the buildings, if you've seen it earlier, where Jagger was kind of wreaking havoc when he landed after trying to get the Devil's Whistle, it wasn't quite as good compared to some of the details on the buildings.
No. But just the whole fact, though, that they built buildings, anyways, with explosives and they built enough of them to make it look like a large city. That, for me, in and of itself, is quite a feat.
Mm-hmm. And then this scene here with Gamera is, I kind of like.
Wrist.
It's like the way he has some of those things that were projected from one of Jiger's horns there on his head. It's like he punctured all 4 of Gamera's limbs there, like through and through, like both of his arms and legs there. It's just kind of like, I don't even know how he can still manage to move all of his limbs with all those 4 projectiles through his limbs.
The thing that gets me is when they show the hands, because it looks like it's going through your wrist. And like the earlier shot, like 2 seconds ago, where they were showing the wrist, it looked like there was a line down it. And I'm always reminded of that awful thing people say where you don't want to cut sideways, you want to cut upwards. It just,
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think of that. I'm like, every time I.
But yeah, at least just kind of going back on some of the appearances of the buildings. I think in this shot here, I think the buildings are much better presented and look a lot better compared to the first couple shots.
They are. However, if you were paying attention there just a second ago, none of the tanks were moving. And then, like in the foreground here, it's very obvious that the buildings, only two sides of the buildings were made instead of all four. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, another cost cutting measure. Why he shot those horns, they did nothing there. But,
I also totally forgot this. When it comes to the ability here, that Jiger also has this kind of directed heat ray sort of thing that kind of eviscerates everything that ray touches. I totally kind of forgot about that ability of his.
one of the things that always gets me later too in this film, I was talking about Gamera's wrists, is that when Gamera fights Jiger in the final battle, he sticks these telephone poles in his ears, and then when he
Oh
sticks, and then he
yeah,
pulls them out like they were 80 feet into his head, and there's blood on him. I'm like, oh my gosh, he practically ruptured his own eardrum doing that,
I
trying
think
to
it's
save his
just
hearing, but then again, he
yeah.
kills his own hearing by rupturing his own eardrums. Just it makes no sense.
And then now here's just the way he's trying to get those needle things out from his legs.
They look barbed almost too.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just try pulling the ones out from his arms, and then he would have been able to, maybe pull them out from his legs too?
And he does it there now.
Duh, stupid. Gamera ain't too bright. So let's talk about everything that's wrong with this picture. A turtle that flies.
I think that's kind of the most obvious thing.
When he's in this, I'm always reminded of a fruit plate.
A fruit plate.
Yeah, like the bottom part where the fire's coming out is like the bowl, and then like his spiky top part of his shell reminds me of like various types of fruits, like or even some vegetables like Brussels sprouts or something popping out
Well,
from
just kind of
bowl.
the way his shell is kind of designed. If you just kind of look at it from the top or from where from that direction, it kind of looks like an artichoke in a way.
This is footage from Virus, the underground footage.
And again, some of the details on, especially in the city scene here, is not too terribly bad. Especially the way when they constructed that tower that Jagger just destroyed there. That one was probably the most detailed one by far, along with the one of the castles there that they had.
See, look, like as that one building fell, you could easily tell when it fell forward, there was no back to it.
Yeah, and in the Blu-ray version here, you can definitely tell in some of the areas if you look carefully, some of the lines to where that the buildings would be destroyed.
Oh, another reason why I hate her.
What's that?
She was like, "Come on," directing all the guys. Not helping. I'm like, you know what? You're about as tall as them lifting that thing off the ground. Why don't you stand underneath it and use your head? Make yourself useful.
Like it didn't look that heavy to me.
It looked like a beanbag pillow almost.
Kind of did. Like maybe just stuffed with pillows. And now we get to round 2.
It'd be great if they stopped by the harbor and like held her head under the water and drowned her.
Oh God.
I'm just picturing her brother like with the psycho look on his face, him baring his teeth and his eyes really wide and his furrow, and his brow furrow, and he's just like, "Arr!" And his friend Hiroshi like holding her head down too.
or or like a funny thing, it's like when they are on the bikes, like he speeds he speeds up going down a hill and then like jumps off from the bike and then with her still on it then runs right into a wall or something.
Or puts on the front brakes, they flip head over tail, and then she goes smashing into the concrete.
Oh God.
We're having way too much fun with this. This is great.
I kind of like how Gamera throws one of the smokestacks and then lodges it right onto one of Jiger's horns. But then for some reason in that scene there where Jiger is flying up, it's no longer on there.
Yeah. Oh, whoopsie daisy. Gamer had a case of the stupids there for a second.
And that's kind of one of the things where physics didn't really apply. Is like when Jiger kind of went on that one side of that kind of the one of the I forget the name of it. One of the scaffolding there, like it should have bent right away. It shouldn't have flipped.
Oh, yeah.
Gamera up.
But then again, we're talking about a movie where giant monsters exist. And you talk about physics. Well, take a look at what Gamera just did. He was in a shell going up and down on Jiger's stomach. And it's like, technically, the way Gamera's made, that's not supposed to work that way.
And then here we go again, where when Gamera is like throwing Jiger up and down, it's like he's just like Jiger is just really stiff. You can definitely tell that Jiger is on strains there. The way he's bouncing up and down.
A lot of people think that this whole suction ability of Jiger is useless. It's like, no, it's not. Oh, here we go.
And we got Jiger injecting the eggs.
I can see like some people who are sort of the deep thinkers would be looking at the scene and be like, well, in this scene, Jiger penetrating Gamera is sort of the opposite, the male penetrating the female. And so it just means, woman power or something like that. I could see them really looking too far into that.
And it's like, come on, just think of it as a scorpion sting in a way.
I like this scene here. After he gets stung, he just kind of goes almost on like a drunken tirade, just like, oh.
It's like, why, what a cruel world.
It's so melodramatic. He's like, ow, ow.
Like, I don't think it wouldn't be that bad. It's like, come on, you had like 4
I don't know, dude.
Needles or something going through all of your limbs there.
I mean, imagine something that was probably like 4 or 5 inches long stuck into like the top part of your shoulder. I mean, that would hurt.
Yeah. But barbed needles from a horn going through all of your limbs.
Well, and then again, though, too, you have to remember, as we find out later, he was injected with eggs. The fact, too, that his eggs, the Jiger's eggs, more or less, were injected into his lungs. You almost wonder, too, if he's having a hard time breathing.
That could probably be one thing, too. But yeah, just really making it a big deal. But yeah, just kind of going back to what you said a little bit earlier, as far as probably kind of the low budget that they had. That they do a lot of city scenes here.
Yeah. How come it only changes on his one arm here?
You would think it would kind of start from his shoulder and then expand out from there.
It's amazing Bandai never made a theater exclusive of this.
I would like to know how kind of that was done. I'm probably guessing that they're doing it from there is kind of from reverse, and then just kind of like they probably had it like translucent at first, and then painted it from there, but then kind of did a reversal sort of thing.
I'm not sure.
Because from the looks of it, it kind of looks transparent.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of really see the insides of Gamera's head right there.
Why the rest of his body doesn't change is weird too.
I'm probably guessing just to kind of hide the person. So, because from the looks of it, from right there, that it's all translucent. It has to be. Gamer, don't die! She like comes up to them and is like, "You idiots! What are you doing out here?"
That'd be funny. She walked like creeping up behind him, like tiptoe with a hatchet, and then raised it, hacked away.
or like a slapjack and then hits him in his
I haven't heard of a slapjack in a long time.
Jiger Countermeasures HQ.
Tiptoe, 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 tiptoe.
And then the scientist guy right there, kind of off to the left with the beard and kind of a gray hair, gray beard.
Oh yeah, he's in a lot of these too.
Yeah. I forget what major role in the film that he had.
I want to say it's Gamera versus Gauss.
Maybe that or Barugon.
Actually, this might be the guy. Yeah, I might have been referring to. I gotta get a better look at him. It might be him. Yeah, I think it is. Get these crazies out of here. Yeah, that is the guy. That is the guy.
Yeah, he was yeah, the one who was kind of handicapped on crutches in Gamera versus Barugon.
Yeah.
He was that one guy's brother.
I think the reason why this statue is bothering those guys is because I think they said everybody who touched the statue
Yeah.
had a reaction to it. So I think that's where I'm getting it
Yeah,
from.
it was it now I remember it was kind of like some kind of curse for whomever touches it will kind of hear that certain frequency or something like that. Yeah, there we go. They were talking about the poison.
So I was right.
Yeah, just kind of like what Hiroshi says here is like whoever touches it gets sick. So it's kind of like a specific frequency. Kids know more than we do.
Now, where's my Metamucil?
Diabetes. But people are sick. We're too busy. Go away. I like how they just lay it right there in the middle in the middle of the place and just no high security or anything like that. And then yeah, the reason why Jiger is trying to go after that statue is that, of course, it's some kind of curse that put him to sleep and everything. And so once it's destroyed, that he wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. Yeah, you can just get a submarine and go down there. Not like you have no way going into water. Just another plot hole.
Yeah, the plot holes in a lot of these Gamera films are so big you can drive the sun through it.
Boy, that's kind of quite the helicopter there. Helicopter / plane.
A toy, I mean, a plane was dispatched to go take X-ray.
It's like, even though these, like the X-ray things, are just pieces of paper, I don't know how that projector would just kind of go through those sheets of paper and making it look like it's all in one piece once it's on the screen there. Like, you would think you would see spaces in between that whole X-ray thing.
Yeah. His ribs look really fragile for a creature his size.
And really thin too. I mean, just
That's
look
what I'm
at those
talking
compared
about,
to
yeah.
the bones. Like the rest of his bones, like the thinnest part. Like, I don't even know how those ribs would be able to stabilize him. Even kind of his the vertebrae, like the neck bone, there, it seems kind of a bit too thin.
This is what I was talking about earlier, this
Oh
sort of weird
yeah,
scene. A lot of people have issues with it. I think it's interesting.
kind of interesting, but also kind of at the same time a bit disgusting in a way, and how some of that stuff happens.
See, this doesn't bother me, but the whole gamma wrist thing does.
But yeah, just look at
Look
that.
at
Ugh.
that.
And then some of the reaction.
Can you imagine being an elephant and having that happen to you?
Yeah, yeah, that just, like, I don't even know how it survived with just all that, especially with it just expanding like that to where that they had to operate on it. Well, at least it probably would breathe through its mouth, but it wouldn't be able to through the nose. It'd be kind of interesting how that happened to begin with.
Bugs going up the sinuses.
Yeah, we stole something.
We stole our box of Quaker oatmeal. No.
And Dad doesn't even question how the car got there. Like, what are you kids doing?
Smoking? Wonder how I roll this joint up. Stupid kid, you're unfolding it. Gotta pick it all up. Too bad she just didn't walk in there and stay there.
Too bad she didn't trip there.
Bang her head and then tumble her splashing. That almost looks like the same sub actually from Vera's. How come I never thought about that until now?
Was it? I can't remember.
Young Dwight Eisenhower, remember, reverse the controls.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, now I remember. It could probably be.
She's been in the same clothes, I think, since the start of the movie.
And it looks like she's wearing long johns there.
I didn't want to have to see a little kid's butt there. That was bad camera positioning.
Yeah.
That'd be funny if she sneezed and flipped over into the water. Achoo! Whoa. Looks like the Meg.
I don't even know how the submarine that size would be able to go into Gamera there, just the way it looked.
It'd be funny if they
just
tried
the size of
and
it.
they got stuck midway through his throat, and they're like, "Oh crap, we can't go backwards or forwards." And then Gamera wakes up and he chokes, and then Gamera's finally defeated by stupid little kids who got stuck.
Oh god.
Imagine the irony.
I mean, just the way that it looked, and then just the size of that little submarine heading towards Gamera's mouth there is like, it wouldn't have gone in.
The time on the clock in the background there is almost the exact same time as it is on my end.
Not for me, though.
We could write a parody script for this film.
Kind of like the 80 films version of the Lake Texarkana Gamera.
Gamera versus Jiger, the funny version.
Oh, what are you doing over here?
Why is your ear red? Has he been nibbling on it?
I don't want to know. And see, now they're going in the throat, but like in this one here, the whole submarine, it's like kind of the whole sizing perspective here is kind of out of place the way that they had it when you saw the submarine head towards Gamera's mouth there. But then in the scene that we saw there is like the sizing perspective is just kind of way off.
Well, in that background there, it was blue. It actually should have been like dark red or like black.
Yeah.
They were in his mouth. I know we make fun of this, but that's part of what we do with these commentaries. But this is a fun movie. I mean, I really do like this.
Yeah. And sometimes we kind of point out some of the obvious things. And I think too the reason why I don't really like that girl is just her facial expression. It's like
Like
she's
her
pissed all
mom.
the time.
that'd be that'd be funny if Hiroshi like just got mad at her and said, "Well, your mom's ugly," and the girl like starts crying. then the little girl's brother behind Hiroshi there's like, "Hey, that's my mom you're talking about." "Yeah, you're just ugly as her," and they start strangling each other.
I like how like it shows the indicator on the projection,
Yeah,
even
because
though
that's
it,
like one of those overhead sheets from like grade
yeah,
school. What do they call them? Acetate sheets.
yeah. Even and like I was saying earlier, like the sheets that they have Gamera's X-ray on, they're like kind of these slim papers, like you can barely have like even display on that projector there. Like all you would
Yeah,
see is kind of like almost black.
yeah. It's just whatever.
Yes,
It's a
it's just
Gamera
like a
movie.
lot of things that is just kind of does not make sense at all with this.
Looks like he was about ready to bake a cake there.
It's kind of like that. This particular scene here kind of reminds me of Destroy All Monsters in a way, where
A
they're
little
kind of
bit.
going into the with the Kilax
Yeah.
or maybe Seatopia.
Have
You
you
guys
ever
will
seen
first met
Journey
in
to
the
the
middle.
Seventh Planet?
Uh, I I think so. It's been a long time.
If you haven't, you need to. It's a really goofy, corny science fiction movie, but it is kind of neat too. It kind of reminds me of that. It has that Cyclops in it that I was telling you about here a couple of years back, whose
Yeah.
Screech was Rodan's voice.
Hmm.
That should be stanky.
Yeah. Like full of fluids and everything, and not so roomy like that.
It'd be funny if Gamera woke up, sneezed them out, and they flew out of his nose, and they got impaled on like something.
Oh, first off, they probably wouldn't even fit through his nostrils to begin with.
Well, they got the submarine through his mouth. How do you explain
I
that?
know. That's the thing. I like all the like the little
Saran
air
wrap,
packets.
the bubble wrap. Looks like garbage bags that just
Yeah,
inflated.
clear bubble like clear
I never
garbage
noticed
bags.
that before either. Wonder how many man hours that took to put all that together. Theater exclusive Bandai Gamera translucent with a
I
little
was like,
purple streak
it probably
across the
took a
head.
while just to fill up those air like bag of air, and then just trying to make sure how much that they needed. Probably quite a bit, and then just like slapping on like goopy sand kind of mud substance on those bags.
Really, the real tragic thing behind this, and it's probably true, is that all those bags were probably like thrown in the garbage in half, and then probably like floated out in the ocean.
I wonder if some of them are still around today.
Oh, plastic doesn't break down all that easily.
It's like, leave me alone. I'm
I
trying to
think of my
sleep.
own cat Hershey when I see that expression. Kind of like, what do you want? Leave me alone. Cameron needs to really clean out his lungs. There's a lot of green sand in there.
Or mud.
Kind of reminds me of that fungus you would see a little bit here and there in the Tongo.
Or maybe mold.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Was it with this Jiger creature? Something only the babies can shoot. They shoot out, like whipped cream before they can shoot out those
Or kind of
spikes.
like a really wet glue. sort of thing, because from the looks of it, Hiroshi can't even move.
Yeah. Well, well, it either is that or maybe they hit puberty very early and it's semen.
Oh God.
Maybe it sneezes an awful lot. And that's just its snot.
Water's too shallow. Well, then how the hell
Yeah,
did you
I
get
never
up there?
noticed those bags before. Now I can't keep my eyes off of them.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie more times than you have too, and I never noticed it until now.
I kind of forgotten kind of what was used for his lungs there.
I thought it was like just, like foam or something that was just
Yeah.
jaggedly cut or something. I didn't realize it was bags.
Yeah. It's like you bitch.
Cocksucking motherfucker.
It's like I was trying to use this, but then you ruin it, damn it.
There goes my long distance.
It was the best phone I ever had.
It's obviously cold on the set there. You see his breath?
Yeah, I just realized that now. I'm probably guessing that they did this from the outdoors or something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get rid of these inflated bags anyway, so might as well do it outside. So when we're done, we just let the wind take care of it. Goes in the ocean. We have like whales swallowing and choking on the bags.
Yeah.
The whales would take care of it.
Yeah, at least now here with that frequency coming from the walkie-talkie, they're starting to figure out what the certain frequency basically kills off uh, the Jigers here.
That would be interesting. Like you have Jiger fighting Legion, and the cell phones are Legion's friend, but the cell phones potentially could be Jiger's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darn it, they got out.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting how she knew the sub was there before it came up.
She's a witch burner.
Capture her! Arrest her!
That'd be funny if he stood up and he just let one rip as he got up.
Or that, or his cane just snaps in half.
Has it broken? He got impaled by the bottom part of his cane. And he's like, ah!
Oh. Oh, that's not what I was thinking.
Spitting up blood all over the people in the audience. It comes out in like an exorcist style.
Or that is like, it's like it goes through and it's like, not again.
You mean this has happened before? Yes.
I always keep forgetting to not put too much weight on my cane.
Where do you get your canes? They're awfully shoddy. I got them from the Dollar Tree.
It's like, why does this have to happen, Colonel Sanders?
Yeah. I always thought it'd be the chicken that killed him. While you guys were busy with Jiger, I stole $1 billion and made an atomic weapon. It looks like this. That's
It's
the
just
same
the
statue we
devil's
got
whistle.
earlier. Exactly.
Yeah, at least now we kind of get the more detailed uh, thing of what's going on with the Devil's Whistle. It's basically kind of a where they put in the sacrificial blood and everything, and put it kind of lined it in.
That's where the girl comes in. They have to sacrifice her.
I'm not quite sure if that actually happens.
Hey, work with me here. I'm trying to rid the world of something annoying. No, we were going to cut him up and divvy him up for Thanksgiving.
Leave Gamera to us. We know how to defeat him.
And the adults are simply okay with that.
And then they go back in with wires.
Now stay there.
It's kind of funny is the way that they were dragging kind of the wires in order to resuscitate Gamera. There's like the wires were pretty damn thick.
It's too bad they didn't turn the wires on prematurely, because while the kids are in the water, you know, they're
Yeah.
metal stub.
Where like someone didn't accidentally like sit on the like the thing where the button was.
Darn.
Boy, it looks like Jiger is having a terrible dream there. It's kind of funny where they have all those bullhorn sort of looking speakers surrounding him. It's like, son of a bitch! That guy's being so melodramatic. I like the scientist where he kind of has a smirk on his face.
Turn the switch on. Turn the switch on. Make sure they're touching the wire. Make sure they're touching the wire.
Make sure they're still in the submarine in the water. You know, I'm kind of surprised the way when they turn on the electricity there to resuscitate Gamera, you don't see a whole lot of fish rising up from the water. Boy, what would everyone do with the whole electricity cut up from the entire city? Get up! Get up, Gamera! Funny, Gamera just chokes like, "God, what's this stuff going through my throat?" And on this Blu-ray version here, I'm probably guessing it's on the DVD there too. It seems like some of the shots here, kind of like what we're seeing right now, is kind of in a fisheye kind of lens, or kind of a wide-eyed lens, because you can kind of see kind of the warpedness of the picture. It's like, damn it, come on. And I like how those wires just pull themselves out from from Gamera there.
How convenient. They don't rip his lungs out at the same time.
Yeah. Or like you don't see him coughing up blood from the mouth there. Just from all that punctures. Bear, bear, bear. Oh my god. Hammer and sickle. Just the way the camera just lands.
Take his license away.
Gamera's too drunk. You know, I just realized that Hiroshi's father's mustache, the way it looks. Doesn't it look a bit too familiar?
Zoink. Jiger would be cut from the team.
Like the way Gamera rolls here, that it doesn't act. It's like he's just kind of somewhat floating in a way.
So he's just going to go ahead and quote unquote protect his eardrums by rupturing his eardrums with telephone poles. That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
How come his skin isn't burning?
That's the
That's
one
a
thing I
heat
don't like to
ray.
know. Yeah. I mean, it easily roasted a lot of those guys that we saw earlier. Like, cleaned them bone dry.
Kaiju movies where absolutely nothing makes sense if you think about it. And that's
Kaiju
one of the
movies
main
where
reasons why
physics
we
don't
love them.
exist.
And see, unlike other kaiju movies of the time, where most of them were taking place in a rural area, there's at least some relatively decent models for this final battle here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not spectacular, but
I think
it's better than most.
you can kind of say it's about half and half of it. Kind of have a half of a cityscape and then half of kind of this hilly countryside sort of setup.
Well, and this even has more than Monster Zero, which was 5 years earlier.
Yeah, a little bit. Now that I think about it, I kind of like the way how Gamera takes care of that needle from his tail.
Isn't it strange though that Jiger just sits there and takes it?
Yeah,
It's got its own mind.
and I like how it just moves out even after it's
Look at
out.
that. Look at all that blood on those. Fine, I'll do as you're told.
Like even though you're indoors, I can't really even hear you.
You
Like
know,
just
all
the way
these
that yeah, just the way Jagger landed there, you think it'd break his neck.
all these kids in a lot of these Gamera films of the later Showa era are talking about Gamera do this, Gamera do that, and Gamera does it. It makes you
Yeah.
wonder that if the kids are that good at fighting, why aren't they having street fights? Like I would love to see a show film in which, like one of the kids is grew up on the streets of Tokyo and fought for a living, was a street brawler and all that stuff, and you
Yeah,
know
just
just got
see
into street fights.
yeah, just see Hiroshi here, uh like bad talking Jagger's like, hey, jackass, outside, 3 o'clock sharp.
My ring's outside. Yeah, let's do it.
I just kind of like Jagger's facial expression, just the way, and just ramming in right into that one expo building there.
See, they always have money to make these new kaiju costumes and to make most of them relatively expressive, but yet they never had enough money to really fix Gamera's expression. It's always been the goofy looking face where the eyes light up and simply go back and forth.
I think it's probably kind of the same suit that they've had in since
Right.
probably
But my
one of the
point is that they
certain
never
movies.
tried to improve it.
Yeah. It's like, come and get me, you idiot. And I think too is like coming up. I probably would have to say is kind of one of the most violent parts that we've seen, and probably one of the Gamera Showa films.
More violent than Space Scouts being killed.
I said one of keyword one.
I know, but I wanted to see where you stood. Here we go.
Yeah, I think it is coming up here. Yep.
Didn't put a whole lot of effort in that. Even the little
And
girl's like,
just
"Oh
their
no!"
facial expressions, like they didn't even think Gamera would do such a thing.
Gamera, you're a monster. Well, yeah, I kind of am.
And just the way that Jiger's still alive after that. It's like
Look like it's
hemorrhaging there.
twitching.
Yeah, it's like he's just kind of hemorrhaging there.
We're bloodthirsty heathens.
It's like it's just something that you probably wouldn't even expect it, especially in a film directed more towards children here. I hope your ears get well soon.
It's funny there wasn't a sequel where they had like terrorist groups or something like that weaponize the poison from that devil's whistle and like try to take over the world. Like shoot the spray or the poison over a metropolitan area to infect everybody.
One thing they probably didn't think about, and then the other, of course, is probably the most obvious thing. They didn't have a whole lot of money to
Yeah.
to do more Gamera films. Because the one thing that we got out of that was Super Monster Gamera. Yeah, and that's kind of basically it of the movie here.
Is Gamera gonna go munch on that?
I wouldn't want to know. Basically, it's just Gamera holding on to Jiger and flying in the sky there, flying away from Expo Land where they were at. Pretty much several scenes worth of shots of Gamera there flying, and with the theme song. And there you have it, the yen symbol.
All right. Well, with all that being said, what did you think of this? You were saying this is the first time in a long while that you had seen it.
It's pretty much kind of what I expected. It's kind of a nice refresher of what I have not seen for quite some time. I knew quite a bit of what to expect from this movie, but yeah, the little girl, she's still annoying.
Yeah. So what let's do actual let's
Should
do
we
like an actual rating here.
should we put back on the camera here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Okay, so like what if you were to get we'll bring numbers for this. Honestly, we'll just do scale 1 to 5, 5 being uh awesome. How would you go about Gamera versus Jiger?
Um, from since the last time I've seen this movie, um, I kind of what I mentioned before watching this movie, I was kind of going into this 50-50. But then after a lot of the refreshers and some of the campiness, and then some of the certain characters, to put it,
No, we know
I
who they
kind of
are.
somewhat,
We haven't
yeah,
try to hide that at all.
yeah. But then I just kind of realizing how still kind of annoying that they are. Um, I would say out of a rating of 5 for this, I probably would at least give it a good solid 3.5 out of 5. It's still enjoyable, but then of course, with some of the physics that they don't really apply to it, or physics is just thrown out the window. But with this movie, basically more towards the kids and everything. I mean, with that, you don't have to really think too much into depth on it, because kids, they're there for more of the fights and everything. They're not there for like all the technicalities of what's going on in the film. So I would give this film a good solid 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, how we make fun of a lot of these films or have fun with them. That's just kind of our shtick, because otherwise the commentaries end up being sort of a snooze fest. But
Stale and a little boring without too much talking in between.
yeah, and I have to say that despite us making fun of this movie in certain respects, some of which I still will be like, okay, as much as I like the movie, yes, this part and all that stuff, it's really goofy, really silly, and all that. But that's one of the great things about some of these earlier kaiju films that sadly is absent from most, if not all, of the kaiju films that are made anymore. And But with all that being said, I still think this is a really solid film.
Hmm.
It's one that sadly I think gets glossed over. Really, I think when you talk to most fans about the Gamera series in general, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that Heisei trilogy, and then maybe a couple of the Showa films like the first Gamera and then Gamera versus Gauss. Maybe even a couple of what some people consider the real goofy ones like Virus and Giron. Um, but just kind of seems like Jiger is one of those that gets glossed over. It's hardly ever
Kind of
mentioned.
an underrated film in a way.
It's sort of similar to Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, I think, in that people know it's there, but it's a film that really isn't talked about a whole lot simply because fans, for whatever reason, find it to be either not exciting or underwhelming or a combination of the two or whatever. Um, I still think Jiger is one of the more solid films because definitely by this point, as we saw, I mean, we saw it just even early on in the fourth film in the series with Virus, how goofy all of a sudden things got in the Gamera series. I mean, you had kids going to, flying in flying saucers and these squid aliens. And then, with Gear on, you had kids actually going to another planet with this
Hmm.
kaiju that had a knife head and these weird female aliens that believe that if you eat another person's brain, somehow you become more intelligent. Just dumb little stuff like that. This is actually grounding that series a little bit, which again, I think Gamera versus Giron is a fun film, despite all of its weird quirks and all that. I still think it's a fun film, but at the same time, this one I like a little bit more than that. I think in that because it's a film that still has some of that campy fun to it, but it takes it to a level that I think really respects the kaiju genre at the same time. That even though it brings the silliness, the childlike aspects to the film, it doesn't go so far as having these weird human villains, having Gamera doing gymnastic type deals on alien structures and all this other weird stuff that kind of happens in a couple of the films just before this one.
Hmm.
And the kids by and large are still annoying, but these kids are a little bit more tolerable in my opinion. That's still not saying much, but I think the overall kaiju um, the kaiju action, all that, the fact that Jiger is a really great villain, I think all of that sort of helps catapult this movie into a higher level. I think this is not just an overlooked Gamera film. I think this is indeed a pretty good one.
Hmm.
I would have to, out of five, I would have to give this 4 out of 5. I think
Oh,
it's,
really?
uh, I think it's a relatively strong film. Yeah, there's a lot of really silly, goofy, stupid stuff in it, but at the same time, if I were to go into all these Gamera films and not just look at what's wrong with them and maybe even nitpick about them, this film probably would even have fewer than what Giron and Virus before it had. And I'm not trying to say that in the fact that, our fandom anymore has become about complaining and criticizing an awful lot and not a whole lot of celebrating things anymore.
Hmm.
I do like this movie. I do find it entertaining and trying to step away from the whole criticizing and comparing it to other Gamera films around it. Looking at the movie for what it is and trying to pretend the other movies around it don't exist. I do like this film. This is a pretty solid film. Like I was talking about earlier at the top of this commentary, back in the days when I first saw this film on VHS, this was, I think, my favorite out of those earlier Gamera films because it was a kaiju film that, yeah, it had some of that stereotypical goofiness attached to it, but it wasn't so outlandish to where it made you not laugh with the film, but laugh at it. And I like Jiger in terms of just how badass it is. I love the kaiju battles. We talked several times about the model work in this film, how much of that there is in this film, even when compared to some of the couple of the earlier Gamera films. This has more model work than a couple of those films. It's a fun film,
Especially,
and
especially with probably the budget that they probably had to work with too, which
right.
probably wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah, and this is a fun film. I think it's fun. It's solid. The kids, yeah, like I said, get a little bit annoying, but I don't think they're terrible. You can have fun with them, like we had over the course of this commentary, thinking up of ways of how maybe they're going to theoretically die or something like that. But I mean, it's it's still a fun film. I When I watch a kaiju film, one of the things I look for obviously is kaiju action. How do I like the kaiju action? And if the kaiju action isn't strong, then I'm looking for strong characters. So like Monster Zero, a lot of people complain about that movie because there aren't a whole lot of kaiju. There isn't a whole lot of kaiju action in it. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who don't complain a whole lot about it because they have strong characters. They have great actors
Hmm.
portray great characters. People are invested in the character story. With the Gamera films, with the exception of when you start to get into the Heisei films, and yeah, kind of with the exception too of maybe the first two or three Gamera films, you're not going to be that invested in the human characters. You just aren't. And so you have to come in going, okay, what kaiju action am I getting out of this? And is this good enough to hold my attention for its runtime? And with Jiger, it's a simple yes. You get three fights in this film, both of them really good, really entertaining. It's definitely like a wrestling match, you know, Gamera slamming Jiger and Jiger getting some hits in. The second battle may be my favorite out of the three in this whole film because you got a lot of miniatures, you got a lot of buildings blown up and all that. Both kaiju are really getting their hits in. It's a fun, solid film where I walk away going, yes, I do like the kaiju action in here. I feel satisfied. If I'm looking for a kaiju movie that gives me some decent battles and stuff in it, Gamma versus Jiger does provide that. So 4 out of 5 stars, really solid film. I think this one deserves another look from a lot of the fans. I think it's a pretty strong film.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and with that, that's the end of our commentary. We hope you enjoyed it, and
Yep. And again, sorry for a little bit of the likeness that we had due to some technical difficulties
it
trying to get some
happens.
things. Yeah. Like every time when we try to do something on the day when we were doing record, something just always has to happen. But hopefully we try to do some more tests in the offside and hopefully something works.
Mm-hmm. And I know if you're watching this separately, this is going to date us a little bit, and it really doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. But um, Rampage, we have that coming up next Sunday, and look forward to that. So
Definitely looking forward to it because I have not seen the movie since I went to see it in theaters.
I've seen that one other time, and I think it is even better. So, anyways, continue to have a healthy obsession with kaiju, and we will see you all later.
Yep. Take care, everyone.